Rain. Neon lights flicker over wet asphalt. A nightclub door bursts open. Bodies crash into tables. Glass shatters. Music keeps playing. In the middle of the chaos, one man walks forward. Black suit, slow steps, empty eyes. People freeze. A whisper spreads across the room. It's him. Not his name, not his story. Just a judgment, a reputation. A pair of invisible horns placed on his head long before anyone in the room ever met him. They don't see the man, they see the monster. This is the psychology of the horn effect, and the entire legend of John Wick is built on it. Rewind the story. Long before the gunshots, long before the underworld feared his name, there was just a man trying to live quietly. In the world of John Wick, the character isn't introduced as a myth. He's introduced as a grieving husband. His wife dies from illness. The house becomes silent. The world shrinks into grief. Then comes the final gift she leaves behind. A puppy. A small attempt to save him from loneliness. But one night, everything collapses. A group of criminals break into his house. They beat him. They kill the dog. They steal his car. To them, it's just a robbery, a mistake. But when their boss learns who they attacked, fear replaces anger. Because the moment people hear the name John Wick, their minds do something powerful. They fill the gaps. They imagine the worst. That is the horn effect in action. The horn effect was first observed in early psychological research by Edward Thorndike in the 1920s. Thorndike studied how military officers judged soldiers. His discovery was disturbing. If a soldier was rated poorly in one trait, officers often rated him poorly in every other trait, even without evidence. One flaw poisoned the entire perception. Psychologists later called this bias the horn effect. A single negative signal creates a full negative identity. One shadow, and the mind draws the horns. In the criminal world of the John Wick universe, the same psychological rule creates the legend. People don't analyze evidence. They remember stories. One story spreads through the underworld. He once killed 3 men in a bar with a pencil. Whether exaggerated or not doesn't matter, because once that image enters the mind, every future action confirms it. When people see Wick walking through a hallway, they expect violence. When he reloads a weapon, they expect death. Even when he stands still, calm and silent, everyone prepares for war. The horn effect makes the brain connect one terrifying trait to every part of his personality. Danger becomes his identity. Look at the scene in the Russian mob boss's office. A father receives a phone call. His son casually mentions he robbed someone. Then he says the name, John Wick. Silence fills the room. The father's face drains of color. Not because he has seen Wick recently, not because he has proof of what will happen next, but because the first impression of John Wick in the underworld was catastrophic. And once that image exists, the mind never lets it go. Psychologists describe this as confirmation bias working with the horn effect. Once we believe someone is dangerous, every action they take becomes evidence of danger. Every rumor becomes truth. Every shadow becomes a weapon. But the fascinating twist is this. The horn effect doesn't always start with evil. Sometimes it begins with tragedy. In the story of John Wick, the man himself didn't create the myth intentionally. His past did. Before the events of the film, Wick was known as the most efficient assassin working for the high table. He completed impossible missions. He eliminated entire organizations. One job after another. Each success made the reputation darker. Each mission made the legend grow. Until eventually, the man disappeared, and only the story remained. The underworld stopped seeing a human being. They saw the horns. Watch how people react when Wick enters a room in the later films, like John Wick Chapter 2 and John Wick Chapter 3. Nobody waits for proof. Nobody questions reality. Everyone immediately assumes the worst. Assassins reload their weapons. Security tightens. Allies step away. The horn effect spreads like wildfire. One terrifying reputation makes people believe he is capable of anything. But here is the deeper psychological tragedy. The horn effect also traps the person wearing the horns. When the entire world sees you as a monster, sometimes you start living like one. Throughout the films, Wick repeatedly tries to escape the life of violence. He falls in love. He retires. He tries to live normally. But the reputation pulls him back. The underworld cannot imagine John Wick as anything except the assassin. The horn effect removes the possibility of change. It freezes identity forever. And this is why the story of John Wick feels so powerful psychologically, because it mirrors something that happens in real life every day. A student fails once, and teachers assume he is lazy. An employee makes one mistake, and managers assume incompetence. A person shows anger once, and others assume aggression forever. The horn effect takes one moment and turns it into an identity. Yet the final truth in the John Wick story is something deeper. Even with the horns, even with the reputation, even with the myth spreading across the world, the man underneath still exists. He grieves, he loves, he remembers. The films constantly remind the audience that the legend and the human being are not the same. And that might be the most powerful lesson hidden inside the entire saga. First impressions are fast. Stories spread faster. But human beings are always more complicated than the labels placed on them. Because sometimes the monster everyone fears is just a man the world refused to understand.